our community. My name is Mike Little, Mayor of the District of North Vancouver, and so the pleasure falls to me to welcome everybody here to the regular meeting of Council for Monday, May 1st. At the start of our meeting, we do have a land acknowledgement. I've asked Councillor Back to provide that for us.
Good evening. We respectfully acknowledge the original peoples of these lands and waters, specifically the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam, on whose unceded ancestral lands the District of North Vancouver is located. We value the opportunity to learn, share, and serve our community on these unceded lands.
Thank you very much, Councillor Back. I will just say that this meeting is being held in a hybrid format. That means that members of the council, the public, and staff can participate in the meeting either virtually or in person. And in that regard, I believe we have all members of council participating in tonight's meeting, with Councillor Murray participating remotely. But at this point, council, I just need to come to you. We have an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions from the agenda as presented? Hearing none, will somebody move adoption of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Forbes, second by Councillor Back. I'll call the question on the matter. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Okay, council, we have no sets of minutes to be considered at the front end of the meeting, and so we start our meetings off with a period of public input. This is up to 30 minutes for members of the community to come and raise issues of import to them and share them with their council. Each speaker is permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes at the front end of the meeting. At this point, though, I didn't have anybody that signed up to speak ahead of the meeting this evening, and so just want to make sure that, on non-agenda items, sorry. You're correct. Thank you very much. It doesn't look like we have a full slate of people signed up to speak. So if other members of the community here in the room or joining us virtually would like to add their name to the back of the list, just raise your hand after we go through the initial 2 speakers, and we'll make sure there's an opportunity for you to speak. So the first speaker I have is Lucy Costilla. Is Lucy Costilla joining us virtually or in person? I don't see you in person here. I don't see a name that reflects that person on the list. Just checking with the clerk's department. Have we had prior contact with Lucy Costilla?
No, we don't see her in person or online.
Okay, so we'll go through the list and we'll come back to double check and see if Lucy's joined the meeting at that time. At this point then, we have Eric Anderson joining us here in person, who's going to come and make comments.
Thank you. Great to be back here for 3 years of absence from this council chamber. But
you're very welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Little and members of council. My name is Eric Anderson, and I live at 2589 Derbyshire Way. Tonight, I speak to you as the chair of the Blue Ridge Community Association. I would like to give you a couple of updates on our association. First, we have our AGM, which will be taking place on Tuesday of next week, May 9 at 7:00 p.m. at Canlan. We have the good fortune that Mayor Little will be our guest speaker that night, and I'm sure that he will be getting some good and interesting questions from those BCM members who will be attending. The following Tuesday, May 16 at 7 p.m., together with the Deep Cove Community Association, the Seymour Community Association, and Parkgate, we'll be co-sponsoring presentations by the North Shore Emergency Management and the District Fire Department about emergency preparedness and FireSmart, both very topical subjects. The meeting will be held in a multi-purpose room at Parkgate, but due to limited seating capacity, we must insist on having all participants pre-register for this activity. Needless to say that we totally support the fire department's request for the FireSmart grant application, which is on tonight's agenda. Finally, I'm extremely pleased to confirm what some of you may already be aware of, which is that Blue Ridge Good Neighbor Day will be back this year. After a long absence due to the pandemic, this will be our 23rd Blue Ridge Good Neighbor Day, and this year's theme is Rainbow. The major event in Blue Ridge will be held on Sunday, June 11, from 11 in the morning through 3 p.m. at Blue Ridge Elementary School. And as usual, it will start up with a parade at the top of Berkeley at 10:45 sharp. After that, there are tons of activities going on at the school, including bouncy castles, pony rides, food trucks, crafts, community and business tables, a beer garden, a cakewalk, a pie eating contest, and the big silent auction. We will even be hosting the first Blue Ridge Chess Open for youth over 11, as well as adults, and possibly pickleball for the first time. Unlike many other events, all the fun for the kids and youth is provided for free. This is thanks to our generous donors and sponsors, and hopefully the participants bidding on all the items at our silent auction. You're all invited to the above 3 events, and please bring your kids or grandkids to Blue Ridge Good Neighbor Day. I'll give you all a copy of our March newsletter, and later in the spring, you will get copies of our second newsletter, which we are working on currently. Thanks for listening.
Eric, can I just get you to restate the date as well publicly? Yeah,
June 11th.
June 11th. Thank you
Sunday.
so much. Thank you, Eric. Okay, would anybody else like to address the council meeting? Yes, come on up.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nicole Hebert. I live 488 Seymour River Place, Maplewood. I just want to say I'm volunteering at that event, doing balloons, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
I just wanted to bring some information to you guys regarding the Lynn Valley redevelopment. I decided to take a poll on the Facebook group called Lynn Valley Families for fun. And I said Lynn Valley Town Center redevelopment of Safeway location has a proposal by the IBI group, and there's a place for a public amenity. What type of public amenity would you like to see put in? And I gave the options: restaurant, youth center, no redevelopment, fire hall, and other. And then there was some added by the group. They were added sports gym, affordable family rental housing, before and after school care programming. So I'll just tell you that we got 269 responses to that. Majority being restaurant, 132 people want a restaurant. 86 people want a youth center, including myself. No redevelopment got 5. Other got 1. Sports gym got 29. Affordable family rental housing got 8. Before and after school care programming got 8. And fire hall got 0. In fact, there was a comment saying, no one will want to live above a fire hall. And that comment got 5 likes. I also attached all the links corresponding to this information in the comment section. And I'll just leave that there for you guys. That's it.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to address the council meeting? And I don't see any virtual hands raised at this time, so I'm just going to circle back and double check. Has Lucy joined the meeting virtually? I don't see a name that reflects that. Okay. Well, at this point, I'm going to say that we have exhausted the speakers list for public input at the front end of the meeting. Thank you all very much for your comments. The first item up for discussion on this evening's agenda is we have a delegation tonight. And so this delegation is from the Parkgate Community Services Society. So I'm going to welcome you all up here today. Well, not all of you, just and if Adele and Sean, maybe you can introduce some of the members of your committee who are here with you here this evening. That would be great.
Right now?
At your pleasure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we'll first start, I guess, folks in the audience on the board. A big wave. Some of our board members are here from the society. We're very pleased and thankful to be here tonight. My name is Sean Biszewski. I'm the chair of our Community Engagement Committee. This is Adele Wilson, who's our executive director, probably a familiar face. And Councillor Back, thanks for allowing us to dunk you in a dunk tank over the summer. That was, I think, the first time we got a chance to meet as well. So without further ado, let's dive in.
So just before we start, I was just going to describe what the difference is with the delegation versus public input. So we have this opportunity available for community organizations to be able to take a period of 5 minutes for a presentation, but then there's also an opportunity for members of council to follow up some questions back and forth at the end. So that's what you can expect now, is about a 5-minute presentation followed by some Q&A. So welcome.
Amazing. Thank you. We're very pleased to be presenting an update and some exciting news around Parkgate Community Services Society. And first, I think an opportunity to remind members, mayor, and council of why we're here and what we do. Parkgate, we see ourselves as really here to do 4 key things: promote community spirit, provide a community hub, help individuals live life better, and create a vibrant and connected community. We achieve this through providing a number of low-cost or no-cost programs available to members of the North Shore, and really and truly creating a sense of belonging and welcoming and an inclusive place for those that live, play, and work on the North Shore. Our partnership program, and this partnership really truly is key to how we're able to achieve this mandate, is one that sees NBRC, District of North Van, and the Society Parkgate operate together to provide these services. The partnership model gives us a seamless selection of recreation, health, supportive, and intergenerational programming available to serve the needs of the community in one place. This model allows the low-cost and no-cost programs to be operating in the same facility as recreation that's delivered on site. We also have a number of programs throughout the community available virtually and off-site as well. And the overhead that's provided from the rent to IT support helps us actually deliver those cost savings to participants. In other words, it would not be possible without this partnership. We provide these many services in one location, including free community events, and see ourselves as a welcoming place or a living room with a heart in a community center in the area. We are also able to be in a unique position to receive funding from governments, grants, donations, and other sources that might not readily be available to other structured organizations within, for example, the district itself. So this partnership is really the best of both worlds. It's allowed us to be pretty innovative in how we support each other. For example, there was a number of fires over the last couple of decades locally, and we took in residents into the community center, provided meals, provided shelter for a few evenings, and really it's something that we're quite proud of in being able to adapt and respond to those situations. Our programs, Adele's told me I'm only allowed to talk for a minute about, because I could give a whole presentation about these. Everything from childcare to youth programs, family, seniors, English language programs, and ultimately the majority of which working with volunteers. We have a few highlights, though, that I do want to speak about. First is we're a very proud pilot program in the government's $10 a day childcare BC program. And this allows families to really get back into the community, be it into the workplace, be it participating more at home, knowing that their decisions to feed or send their family to childcare are a little easier. We have a number of family programs available for new parents. We have seniors programs that are groundbreaking, including My Parkgate Break, and a pilot program that we're working with United Way right now on social prescribing to seniors in our community. We also offer a number of services to youth in our community, be it youth outreach or proactively looking for youth at risk, perhaps engaging in risky community activities, unsafe activities, and we're proud to be able to offer referrals out to other organizations. We host a number of community events throughout the year. Community Day in the summer is our flagship one, or we call it Parkgate Days. Winter Lights in the winter months, and of course a number of town hall meetings, celebrations, and community discussions with local dignitaries. Really, this is our opportunity to help citizens feel empowered and engaged with their local representatives and to feel greater connection to the community that they live in. What's next for Parkgate? Well, we heard about, of course, the pandemic. I don't think anyone missed that, what it meant for us as a not-for-profit. Responding to the pandemic, we were able to only have 1 month of childcare closure, which we're very proud of. After coming out and being able to start getting our programming up and running again, we're now proud to be applying for grants to rebuild our volunteer base. And we've been also participating in a community needs assessment project that we're starting up this summer to hear what else is not met in the community. We also have a copy of our strategic plan, newly minted just last week, that we'd love to share with you all here this evening. And really and truly, in conclusion, just to thank you. We mentioned this partnership would not be possible without the generous funding from the District of North Van. That's you in the top right of this pie here. So that seed funding, it goes a long way. It helps us leverage other sources of revenue to deliver over $2.5 million of programming in our community. So thank you, and we appreciate the additional funding that you've provided while we've had to navigate these tough inflationary times as well. We'd love to take your questions, and thank you again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, right on the alarm didn't even need to ring. It was fantastic. Well done. Thank you very much for the presentation, and obviously we're very proud of the partnership that we have with Parkgate and all of the activities that we get to participate in together in the community and help engage people in the Seymour area. And I know I've always felt very welcome at the space, both just because it is my local community center, and we're obviously very involved in that, living in the neighborhood. But I host the Meet the Mayor events that we do about once a month at the Seniors Lounge there, which is an opportunity for people to come and ask questions about local government and hold me to account. And I've always felt very well supported by Adele and Ellen and the team at Parkgate. Because it will probably come up in questions, I figured I would also make a comment. I understand that Adele's retirement is looming. And I did want to take this opportunity to specifically say how much I've appreciated your leadership and support for the community through Parkgate. And I know people feel very engaged in the facility because of the relationship that you and your staff and everybody have done to make it as barrier-free and accessible as possible in our community. And so I know you've had a career in housing societies and nonprofits, but you've spent, I believe it's about 7.5 years specifically as the ED for Parkgate. And I just wanted to say how much we appreciated your work and wanted to pass along our congratulations to your retirement. When are you planning on, I believe it's coming up fairly
June 30th.
June
That's my last
30th.
day. Yeah.
So it's coming up fairly quickly. I hope I can have a couple of Meet the Mayors in the meantime. And
I hope so
and,
too.
yeah,
I haven't seen you
should
for a
be good.
couple of months.
Yeah, good. So at this point, I'm going to call on other members of council. Councillor Back, you have a question?
Sure, just a comment to begin with. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I'll gladly come back to the dunk tank. If you could warm up the water temperature a little bit, that would be appreciated. But no, having grown up in the district in a different part of the district, I wasn't as aware of Parkgate and the Parkgate model with Parkgate services. So it was in the 2018 election campaign that I really learned more about it and how unique it is to Parkgate and how well it works. So thank you for continuing to serve the community in such a big way and such a broad cross-section of the community as you highlighted in your presentation. You mentioned the rebuilding of the volunteer program as we come out of the pandemic. Are there any other, can you talk about that in terms of the shortage of volunteers and maybe how that's changed and anything else that's changed as a result of the pandemic so far?
Well, I can probably answer to that. So volunteers, in the past, we had over 300 volunteers. And those volunteers are integral to our service and to keep the costs down because it helps out with staffing. It helps out to bring more heart into it because when you have a volunteer doing the work, and of course they're there because they want to be there. Mm-hmm. Since the pandemic, we have dropped down. We dropped down to about 30 volunteers, and we're slowly building it up. I think we've got a little over 80 volunteers now, which is really great, but it's not really enough. We did notice there was a slight decline in volunteers before the pandemic, mostly because of the demographics of a lot of our volunteers were seniors, and they kind of fell by the wayside, started to, and volunteering is tough when, especially in the North Shore, I probably can put this over here, especially in the North Shore when people, both partners need to work. And a lot of people, if they've worked all their lives, then volunteering is kind of like, well, I don't really want to work again and don't want to work for free. So it's a different changing demographics for sure. So we're trying to build up some more interest and reasons why you want to volunteer, especially with some of the youth. It gives you good work experience, etc. So we're going to try and get a volunteer drive together. Certainly, we don't want staff burnout to happen because all of the responsibilities we had being done by the volunteers is now being put to the staff. So
I was going to ask if you partnered with any of the, like Windsor School, for instance.
Oh,
or
yes.
the local, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Windsor and Seaco, definitely.
Kids that all need their volunteer hours.
Oh, yeah. They need a certain amount of hours to come to volunteer, then they need. So we want to, encourage a little bit more of that, of course. Right?
Awesome. Well,
And-
thank you again. And I'll just echo the mayor's wishing you really well in your retirement and your first summer of freedom coming up. Thanks for all your work over the years, and you'll be missed. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
Councillor Back. Next, I have Councillor Murray, followed by Councillors Pope, Forbes, and Ma. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Little. And you're far too young to retire. And we'll give you the summers off if you stay. I make that offer to every staff member that's going. And it seems there's a lot of them going right now, all at the same time. We're losing a very critical part of our corporate history and our corporate knowledge with all of you retiring. And it's, you guys are going to have big boots to fill, and it's going to be a challenge for us as we move forward. So Parkgate, I remember it very well. I was a counselor when it was built, and it actually was replacing, if you could believe it, the community hall in Deep Cove. And it was needed to obviously expand the area. But the community hall in Deep Cove was where, so many events occurred, and guides and brownies and municipal events, etc. And the municipality realized that we need, through redevelopment of the cove and in that area, we needed to create a larger space, and that Parkgate was born. And I remember going to Sea Cove Gym, and the community was very, as they still are today, very vocal, and have huge ownership of our community. And we went out and we had tables. There was sort of a concept that came from the district, and the community had something to say about it. So we went to Sea Cove and we sat around at tables, and we came up with what Parkgate was going to be, how it was going to serve the broader community. And what was new was the society. Mr. Stewart was actually wrote the first agreement for Parkgate as our director of corporate services. And it was a new concept for the municipality to be able to, and the society ultimately, to be able to raise additional funds to support, the society itself, and thus the center and the work in the community. So it certainly had its growing pains over the years. And, now it just feels, with some great leadership. Anne Moy was the director for many years. She's in West Van, although I think she's retired now too. And Adele, of course. And yeah. And it certainly had its growing pains. The relationship with the Rec Commission is good. It's a great relationship, and I know you guys work really closely together. And it's the center of the Seymour, and it's a facility that I've used a lot over the years with my children, and it really is an important place to be, and it's an important place to to continue its work. So I congratulate you. I'm glad Councillor Back brought up the issue of volunteerism, and certainly we are having the same challenges. We all are across the region, across the province, across the country. The North Shore used to have one of the highest volunteer rates in Canada. And now I don't think, any of us can say we have that, because as you point out, Ms. Wilson, that we've got, demographics are changing. A lot of seniors are aging, and those families that are living here now, yes, they are having to maintain generally two people employed. And it's a huge concern, because so much of our work is built on volunteerism. Mr. Anderson's been volunteering for as long as I've known him. And he's been running the Blue Ridge Community Association for as long as I've been a counselor, and doing some really great work in the community. And, he's never going to retire from volunteering. He's going to be doing this work for many, many more years. But it is a concern as to how communities such as ours, who are, we're so rich in the kind of services that we can provide. We've been so blessed with what we can provide, but really it's on the backs of volunteers for so much of it. And I think it would be great if we could all come together and, sort of start brainstorming how we're going to recruit those volunteers and share all of those ideas, because we're all kind of in the same boat. And, so I look forward to those discussions with you guys, and with working together to try to solve some of these challenges that we have, certainly since the pandemic. But I just wanted to thank both of you for your work. And again, Adele, congratulations on your retirement. And thank you for the
you.
leadership over the years. And we're going to actually recruit you to be a volunteer because now you have time. Mr. Wardell is going to have time, our CFO, because he's retiring. Mr. Joyce is going to have some time on his hands. So maybe we won't have a problem with volunteering. We'll just put all our retired employees to work. And so thank you. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you, Lisa.
Councillor Murray, Councillors Pope, Forbes, and Ma. Councillor Pope, your comments.
Thank you. I just want to thank you as well for all of the phenomenal programs that you offer for the community. I went to my first community day last year at the start of the campaign, and I was blown away by all of the things that you were involved in. So thank you very much. I don't have much to add beyond what's been said already. I just did want to ask you about the childcare though, and what your waiting list is like. Because we went on the waiting list about 10 years ago, and my daughter is now turning 17 and never did get in. So how is it today? It must be even bigger.
Well, we put a cap on it, of course.
Pardon me?
We put a cap on it,
Yeah.
of course. We open it up and within an hour it's full.
Yeah.
We try to service the wait list, but it's always been popular. Even before $10 a day, it's been popular.
Yeah.
It's a good program. It's a great program, and certainly
Yes.
it's always been affordable, but now it's even more so. So we have somebody specifically who maintains it and calls up people and makes sure they're still, need childcare and everything. For a while, we didn't have the staff to do all of that, but we do now. But yeah, we have to disappoint an awful lot of people. It's really too bad.
Is there any possibility for expansion of that in the future?
Well, we are expanding. We are going into the new Lynn Creek Community Center. So we're going to have 12 infant toddler spaces and 25 3 to 5 spaces when we open up there, which apparently will be early 2024.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you again, and good luck with your retirement.
Thank you.
Pope, Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you very much for the presentation. And Adele, I just want to warn you, I'm starting a petition on change.org that you're not allowed to retire. From a personal point of view, I just want to say that Parkgate was like my second home. And I run into a lot of Lynn Valley residents when you have Parkgate days. It's so popular and it's so much fun, and you do offer so much. I wanted to ask you, you said you're going out to the community about strategic planning. Have you done that before? Is this something new, and how are you going to approach the community
Do you want
on
to talk
that?
about that?
Sure. Yeah, this is I would say probably the first of its kind that we're really doing within the society, where we're looking right now. We've actually been very grateful for a volunteer project manager who we're working with, and we're also working with our incoming executive director as well. So I'll just do a little plug for Ellen, and we're going to be taking an opportunity to look at both in person, being present at places where we hope to catch people, be it outside the local grocery shop, be it at your library, canvassing a number of other stakeholders, perhaps other daycares as well, childcare centers, and also looking at a number of online opportunities to just get a survey and a questionnaire in front of people to tell us what we're missing, and hopefully capture that missing demographic that might be underserved or not served at Parkgate currently. So certainly with that, I'll also put a plug in for space. Space is key to delivering the programming that we can. We're very, very thankful for what we have, but we know as we ask, I'm sure that we'll be bursting at the seams even more once the community tells us what we're missing.
Well, thank you very much. The programs there are great. The people are there great. And like I say, I run into people from Lynn Valley, from Capilano all the time over there. So thank you again. And Adele, congratulations on retirement. But I think Lisa's got a really good idea that you need to work summers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Might be voluntold in the process there. Yeah. Councillors Ma and Hanson. Councillor Ma, your comments.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Going at the end, my council colleagues have covered a lot of the points already, but I'll just touch on a couple. But first, congratulations on your retirement. I think your whole family is quite involved in community work. So
Yes.
Yes,
You know, my brother.
yes. I also want to say thanks to the board. I mean, I've sat on a few boards before, and it takes a lot of time. So I want to recognize the commitment and time that you've made to this. And one of your past board members, Teresa and I go back to
Oh,
our
really?
days at BCIT. So, we've met before, and I know how committed she is to Parkgate. I was just following up on, the changes in programs. Our communities evolving. There's some new people moving in. I'm just wondering, what does Parkgate envision potentially for some new programs for new people arriving, or, is that something that's going to come out in the strategic plan?
Well, we are, sorry, I can, okay. So we have, just in the last year, we started up an English language program for newcomers. We have done a newcomers tour. We are trying to reach out to newcomers because we want them to know about us for sure. A lot of the people that we do know that a lot of people that come into the center have known about us for years.
Okay.
They're repeat customers like crazy. So reaching out to people, I know word of mouth is also extremely important. So yeah, we are looking into trying to bring in a few more newcomers, and hopefully with this community assessment, we'll reach out to more, and they'll know that we're more than just a recreation center, that we're a community hub. So that is, it's one of our goals is to reach out to more people, and certainly we know that we're missing some of the missing middle of the adults that have the grown children, but they're not quite seniors, or they don't have kids yet, and they don't fit into the categories that we've got pre-established. So we're trying to bring in some adult programming as well. I know there's been a lot of talk about we've had a lot of people request a dance for adults that without having to go to a nightclub or something, right? And it's just a nice safe place where you can have a dance with a nice live music and maybe a beer or a glass of wine without going crazy. Closing down at 10:30.
Okay, I'll have to buy a ticket to that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, well, the teen dance was always a rite of passage for our kids going through. And so next speaker I have is Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. And thank you, Sean, for your presentation. Adele, congratulations on all your community service. I know you're all of the time that I've been involved in council, you've been involved in that organization and done so much good work. And we just thank you for that. You've made such a difference to our community. And I thank the board as well. I see the board is here, and thank you for all the painstaking work that you've put into this organization, which has done so much. I wonder if you could just comment a little about senior services. We talked about childcare earlier. Can you comment on the demand within the Parkgate area for senior services? And perhaps you could highlight some of the services that you believe are imperative or providing the most benefit to the community and the seniors end. Thank you.
We seem to have a lot of seniors in the community, definitely. And most of them come to us. We've done numerous programs. We've got a lot of drop-in programs where they can just show up, have a game of cards, or we can just put out a chessboard and let them, play chess or cribbage or whatever they want to play. We have a lot of registered programs, health and wellness programs, share yoga, keep well, various health and wellness programs with a snack and a cup of coffee and a socialization attached. So we're very big. I mean, we're key on connecting the community. And we found during the pandemic that the seniors especially were suffering from the isolation. So during the pandemic, we started up, we used to have an in-service, but we always still have an in-service meal program where they come in, have lunch, socialize, and at affordable prices. And then that was all stopped during the pandemic. So we created a meal delivery and pickup program. So we delivered meals to families in the area who couldn't get to Parkgate Center, and those people who could get Parkgate Center, they met outside and they had a little socialization at that time while they picked up their meal. So it was a great way for people to connect with each other. And when the meals were delivered to the people that were in isolation, then they get to talk with the volunteers a little bit. So that was a great thing that came out of the pandemic and a great need. We had over 100 people every week picking up the meals. We now have back every other week now, we have the in-service, the in-person meals. One a really important, probably original program that spawned out of Community Connection. We have a table that sits, an advisory committee, and that advisory committee said that, came up with the decision that we really needed a dementia program, a dementia respite for the caretakers so that they could go do their grocery shopping or house cleaning or just go to play tennis or something. At the same time as providing some kind of activity that's doable of activity for those people with dementia, where they felt a sense of belonging and connection and could maybe use their brains to the capacity that they're capable of using, so it could prolong the degeneration of the brain. So we came up with what we call our Parkgate Break program. And it's proven to be successful, so successful that other communities do want to offer it. So we brought in Capilano Community Services Society, and they trained with our facilitator, and now they have their own program, and West Vancouver wants to replicate as well. And I believe there's other communities who want to, and some of the care facilities want to start it up in their places as well, so that if somebody came from our program, it wasn't a sudden drop of this kind of activity. So it's a really fantastic program, and it was created out of community consultation, which is fantastic. We also have an iPad clinic, which I really like because it gives the seniors a chance to learn how to use their iPads, which is really great. But one gentleman said that he came to learn how to use his iPad because his daughter recently moved to, don't know where she moved to, but it was off the continent. And it was the only way he could connect with her. So that meant a lot to us as well. What else? We just got Bridge. Bridge is really active. They're almost like pickleballers. There's a lot of them, and they know what they want. And yeah, that other stuff I can't remember off the top of my head, but we have probably a majority of our people that wander the halls on a regular basis are the seniors. Welcome.
Right. Council, thank you very much for your questions. At this point, I'm going to seek a motion for receipt of the delegation, moved by Councillor Back, seconded by Councillor Ma. I'll call the question on that motion. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. On behalf of the council, thank you very much to the board for all of the work that you do in service in our community. And of course, special thank you again to Adele. Look forward to seeing you in the next couple of months as you hand over the reins to Ellen and the team there. So thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to you applying for committee appointments, Adele.
All right. Okay, so returning to the regular business of the agenda. No recognitions, no other. We're moving on to item 8.1. This is the mandatory review of the Code of Conduct. And I'm going to have an introduction. I believe Mr. Stewart is joining us virtually here this evening, and it's his report, and he's going to lead us off. I did just want to say a couple of things before that. So the provincial government decided that there were too many municipalities in the province of BC that did not have code of conduct or code of ethics mechanism in place. And so their decision was to make it so that every council has to have considered the matter. Now, not only has the district had a code of conduct in place since 2000, we update it on a regular enough basis. We have updated it as recently as April. And so our code of conduct, we do review and we do add to it. And so the purpose of requiring all municipalities to have this discussion it was more or less to bring other municipalities up to the standard that the leaders in the district 23 years ago decided was important. And so, Mr. Stewart is going to make a presentation about it, but that's why we're here today and why we're making this consideration today. Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, Your Worship, you said everything, pretty well everything I was going to say. The fact of the matter is, we've had a code of ethics for some time, and the changing legislation requires a code of conduct. We have the opportunity to, in this resolution, both check the box off in terms of what the province requires, but also to move forward and start to develop a more comprehensive code of conduct. Right now, our code of ethics really applies to council and committees, but we have separate policies with respect to staff. And what we'd like to do is integrate them all. And so the resolution before council gives us the opportunity to move forward on this. And I will say that staff have already done a fair bit of research, so I'm quite hopeful we could introduce this new code of conduct for summer break. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stewart. And so to be clear, I'll be moving the recommendation, which is that this be referred to staff to develop a plan to review comprehensive code of conduct and ethics for the district. Just by having this on the agenda tonight, we've met the obligation to the provincial government, but I don't think it goes far enough. We do have a couple of things that I think we need to address. One being, obviously, our code of conduct and ethics issues are in several pieces of guidelines, and but also eventually the prediction is that this is going to go to become a bylaw. And give it more teeth and more power rather than simply currently a policy guideline. And so I think we need to be doing the research leading up to that so that we can be prepared for that, what I think is an eventuality anyway. So I'll be supportive of this being referred back to the staff for future discussion. Well, I'll be supportive of the staff recommendation here.
I'll second
And
that.
the seconder, I believe the seconder I've got actually is Councillor Forbes. Councillor Forbes, your comments?
I was just going to comment. I have a lot of comments on all the pages on here, and the process I wanted to ask about the process because I think that this is very, very, very important work. And this is the first time that we've seen what Mr. Stewart has come up with. And I really think that I didn't see anywhere in here where the public gets involved at all. But what I'd really like too is I don't think council as a whole either has had a chance to talk before we go to staff and ask for a report. So I was wondering if we could refer this, now that we've met our mandatory timeline, if it's possible to refer this to a workshop where the public could come in as well and see if they have any comments or things that are really that they're concerned about that they'd like to see in this as well, and also give all of council a chance to discuss it openly before we get to a report stage.
Check in with Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stewart, would that be your understanding that there would be a very early meeting with the council in public to discuss the scope of the code of conduct review?
Absolutely. That's the intent, Your Worship, to actually move to a workshop and then start to talk about the contents and the intent. I mean, I think there's a lot of conversation that needs to happen around role and what our respective understandings, because I don't know how you can talk about conduct if you don't agree on role. And I think council needs to have that conversation. And so I look forward to an early workshop on that.
Would that probably be before the summer break?
When are you planning on putting that in the calendar, Mr. Stewart?
Before the summer break was my intention.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Hanson, your comments?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to support the motion. It seems to me this is a significant opportunity for this body to develop what I think could be a significant document, a significant code of conduct that's comprehensive and that addresses a lot of issues perhaps that we haven't had to address so far because of the constitution of our councils to this point. But I think we need through this document to look ahead and consider circumstances that could arise and how a code of conduct could address those circumstances and provide guidance to everybody. Like Councillor Forbes, I have a lot of very specific ideas about a code of conduct, but at this point, I'll restrict my comments to the process. I do support a comprehensive review. I do support us setting as a goal, arriving at a comprehensive and quality code of conduct that perhaps can last many, many decades to come. And I look forward to council being involved in that process and also the public being involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Let's see. Well, I'll just add to my comments then just, and so I am supportive of this review, but I also wanted to put a caution out there that I have seen a lot of instances where municipalities go through a code of conduct review or code of ethics review, and it becomes very political. And I just want to say right at the start, it requires all of us to step back from the day-to-day battles and the differences that we got elected on in the community, and really try to look at a 30,000-foot view about what our core expectations are for performance and behaviors and such, but to not accidentally in the process make it so that we can't have a free flow of ideas and exchange of positions in the community. And unfortunately, I have seen some municipalities that once they went through a code of conduct review, it ended up being used repeatedly in not even the most serious instances as a political weapon. And so that's something that we just always have to keep an eye on, that the purpose of this is really when there's general understanding of misconduct or general understanding of a breach of some kind of trust in the community, that's when this tool comes out, this hammer comes out, rather than simply being used on a regular basis to battle your opponents. That's not the role of it. The role of it is to protect the integrity of the office, and it should not be political in nature. But ultimately, in our system, there are very few reviews above a council. Something can be referred to a provincial court, but generally speaking, we are the police of our own conduct. And so looking forward to going through this process, but once again, just wanted to state it's something that we have to be able to step back from our political roles and try to think entirely of what's best for the community in all cases. So I'm optimistic that we can all come together around that and take the advice from our experts on how to properly conduct this. And but you know, it's going to take a commitment from all of us to make sure that this is used in an effective way. Councillor Pope, your comments.
Thank you. Yes, it's all about protecting the integrity of the council. Very important. And I think the overall issue of reviewing the code of conduct is important. However, it never came up in our priorities. And as you mentioned, just by discussing it tonight, we have indeed met the bar for reviewing it. My concern is this: the council has, and the district has, so many other priorities that need to be addressed urgently that we frequently discuss here at this table. I would hate to see council get sidetracked by by many of the policies that could be discussed or evolved or edited or changed or whatever in the creation of a new code of conduct. Because, like, for example, I have a couple of huge red flags on several of these items that have already been detailed here, which I won't go into now, which would form part of our discussion, but it could also form part of our debate. And we have got affordable housing on the agenda. We need to move on that as fast as possible. There are so many problems with transportation. We need to move on that as fast as possible. And we have to have a laser-like focus on it or none of the problems in this community are going to be resolved. So I guess I'm opposed to this recommendation. I would prefer just to say, yeah, well, let's leave it as it is, because we don't have these problems on council. I have not seen the kind of things that are going on in other municipalities. I think we're working well together, and I would like to continue on that and stay focused on what's really important for our community. And those are my comments for now.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mah.
Thank you. You know, I was actually talking to my wife about this over the weekend, and you know, she brought up an interesting point. So maybe she's watching tonight, but you know, it's not uncommon now that when we start a new job, such as I have recently, you know, one of the things onboarding is understanding how organizations code of conduct, understanding their expectations, and making sure that staff knows what's expected. And in some ways, I don't see any difference than, you know, being on council. I think it's important for us to be know what the expectations are. And I know some of these comments have been brought up earlier. I also see this as an opportunity for council to be more accountable. I think the code of conduct may help to increase public's confidence in council, in our actions, and hopefully that will lead to more engagement. I don't see any immediate issues with the formation of this council. We debate issues, you know, we get passionate about our views, but we do mostly get along, and I think, you know, we're mostly respectful. But as Councillor Hanson mentioned, we do need to be forward-looking, you know, put something in place that preserves councils of the future. So overall, I will be supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Mah. I don't see any further speakers at this time. Councillor Hanson, additional comments?
Yeah, just responding a little bit to the comments of Councillor Pope. I certainly respect the point of view that we have other priorities and there's a concern about being sidetracked, but I would make the observation that as we look around various councils across the Lower Mainland and across history of the last few decades, nothing sidetracks a local government quite so much as having significant issues on that council, which can be extremely divisive and which can literally bring that local government to a standstill. So I think we're doing ourselves, and perhaps not this group of people who are able to work together, but we're doing the district a service if we look in a forward-thinking way and seek to prevent those types of issues that can arise on a council, because that's when I think we can really get sidetracked, to use your words, is when council falls apart. So I think we can create an aspirational document that can be of great assistance in preventing those types of problems in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say, add to Councillor Mah's comments that transparency and accountability to the public is why we get elected, that we're going to listen to them, we're going to work on their behalf as best we can. And I don't think anything short of making sure that all councils on the same playing field about code of conduct is going to get that trust back with some of the community that may have lost it. And addressing Councillor Pope's statements, I think we do pretty good at juggling a lot of balls at one time. But I would like to say that we have until December. So if our schedule starts to get really overburdened or too much to handle in between now and the end of July, we certainly could be doing it in September or October. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Forbes. Yes, I think that's fair, that it can definitely be moved amongst our priorities. Councillor Murray, your additional comments?
Thank you, Mayor Little. Yeah, I think as far as being able to do this work, I'm assuming corporate services would probably lead this exercise. This is a departmental process, and affordable housing would be looked after by planning. So I think we can certainly, we can certainly begin the process, and I think having council discussion on this issue is important. We have had over the years, code of ethics. We've implemented them. Whether or not they've worked, I share some of the concerns as Mayor Little. I can't help but, recall, the best laid plans of mice and men do often go asunder. So you may have these documents, these policies, and, it's about implementing them and making sure that you can be held accountable. And that is the challenge. And I think that's where Mayor Little's comments are apropos, that they can be used as political weapons. And, certainly, I think Mr. Stewart used the term, we're one team at the beginning of this council. And we are one team. And, certainly how we interact with one another, throughout the organization has really changed over the years in respect to the complexity of the work and, the issues of the word liability in the municipality. We are very risk adverse. I think all governments are. And it's very challenging, to be in this line of work. And, elected officials are passionate people that come from the community. We generally start in, volunteering in local community associations, and we rise up to battle causes, and then we become elected. And, we bring that sort of passionate approach to our work to this municipality. I'm one of those people, and it's very emotional work. We're very, rooted in our communities and very protective of them. And so we all want to work together as one and, move forward with this work. I think there has been, a change in, the different roles between staff and council. Over the years, we were smaller. The issues were less complex. They were more community driven. And so I think all of those things, contribute to, how we work in the community and the passion, and it can be a very stressful job as well. So I hope we have a really open conversation about all of this. And I think we have worked really well so far on this council. And I look forward to continuing that collegial, relationship with one another and getting to know one another. And I look forward to these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Murray. Councillor Back, additional comments?
Just a brief comment. Thank you. I do support a review, support a code of conduct for sure. But I do share some of the concerns I heard from Councillor Pope and the amount of time that we'll spend on this and the amount of staff time that will go into it. When I think about the last term of council and the amount of time that we did spend on our updating the code of ethics, which was part of a number of actions that we took to, again, increase transparency. I am concerned that, this could lead to more workshops and more staff time that, is precious. We have so many other priorities that we do need to be able to address, and we're already finding it challenging with the amount of workshop time that we have and council meetings. So I just want to keep that in check. It's important to have a code of conduct, but I think the district has an effective code of ethics that we've just recently updated. So we just need to recognize that there's a number of other priorities that need to be addressed, and I think code of conduct doesn't fall in those top priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I see no further speakers at this time. I'm prepared to call a question on the motion. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries, I believe. Councillor Pope, opposed? Okay, then you're in favor. Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Council. I'm going to be moving on to item 8.2. This is the outdoor customer service areas, municipal property corporate policy, and Mr. Milburn's going to open up with comments.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council. Just a few introductory comments, and then Ms. Ryder has a few comments specific to the report tonight. Just as a bit of a reminder for council as to why this item is before council, approximately 3 years ago, at the initiation of the COVID-19 pandemic, the provincial government created a zero fee process for businesses to seek permission for liquor service outdoors in order to support physical distancing in support of the public health orders issued by the province. Many local governments and the District North Vancouver, with council's leadership, followed suit and created a system of zero fees for outdoor patio areas that we call temporary outdoor patios. And through that process, businesses were struggling, and the suspension of the general prohibition against assistance to business was permitted through provincial health orders. We are now, however, coming out of the pandemic period, and while many businesses still struggle, and we recognize that in our low-cost fees, we do need to apply market rate fees for the use of public lands. So this proposal for you tonight does not relate to all outdoor customer service areas, but only those that use public lands. And so this was presented to council at the public hearing. Council will recall that council unanimously approved an amendment to the zoning bylaw and the business license bylaw to create a system for outdoor customer service areas. And to reduce the cost for these areas, there is no additional fee associated with obtaining an outdoor customer service area in a business license. So no additional business license fee. However, as was noted at the public hearing, unless there are other considerations, including such as if they wish to seek further variances to the zoning, even in excess of those permissions created by council most recently, or if they wish to use a license to occupy on public lands. So that was noted previously, and Ms. Ryder has some introductory material about how we have come up with our recommendation for council in tonight's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ryder?
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Tonight, staff are recommending changes to the outdoor customer service area policy, which is customer service areas on district land, to ensure it's consistent with the new customer service initiative and guidelines, and to review the current annual license fees. As mentioned by Mr. Milburn, in May 2020, council approved the temporary outdoor business areas, which is also known as TOBA, and waived the fees for those patios due to the COVID pandemic. On March 31st, 2023, the waiver of the fees expired, and council approved the new outdoor customer service area initiative in April 2023. All new patios on district land will fall under this existing policy, and patios previously under the TOBA program will start to be charged a fee, as the district can no longer provide assistance to businesses. There are currently 14 existing patio license holders under the current policy, and if all TOBA holders enter into a new license agreement, this number would increase to 18, along with the expansion of 6 of the existing patios. The highway use permit that the TOBA patio holders entered into has very similar conditions to the new license agreement that they'd enter under an outdoor customer service area policy. The outdoor customer service area policy was approved in 1988, so it has been around a while, and was last updated in December 2009. The aim of the policy is to provide a process for businesses to apply for an outdoor customer service area on public land and promote the animation of commercial areas while providing flexibility for staff as locations are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. This is due to many different factors, including pedestrian and vehicle circulation, utilities, and public safety. Unlike private outdoor customer service areas, ones on district land will result in a closer working relationship with district staff and business owners, which leads to increased communication. Staff did review other municipalities' license fees charged for outdoor customer service areas and determined there was a significant range in fees that were being charged over the municipalities. The fees ranged from $1.46 to $6.07 for non-weatherized patios and $2.50 to $10.73 for weatherized patios. Staff are proposing a new license fee of $3.50 for the non-weatherized patios and $5.50 for the weatherized. The current rates in 2023, based on the existing policy, are $3.09 per square foot for non-weatherized and $3.71 for weatherized patios. The new rates will come into effect as at the date of the policy changed, if approved. However, the patio holders who have already paid their license fee for 2023, this fee will not take into account until January 2024. Staff will also provide council with an update after a year regarding the implementation of these new rates. Staff recommends that the changes to the policy are approved and including the increase to the annual license fees. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. I'll be supporting the staff recommendation. Is there a seconder on the motion? Councillor Hanson. Thank you. And just so to understand this correctly, so there would be, if we were anticipating revenue of $14,000 through this, that would be across the potential 18 holders. So we're talking, you know, 800 odd bucks for these fees. If these fees were occurring on private property, would it be normal practice for them to be charged for additional space committed to them? So as an example, you're in a mall property, one of the tenants wants to extend into additional space, they would have to pay a market rate to their landlord in order to be able to do that. Is that accurately reflected?
That would be typical, correct.
Yeah. So if we do not have a fee assigned to it, we're giving a competitive advantage on private land or on public land, and giving an unfair advantage over businesses that are located on private land. Is that fair?
That would be correct.
Okay. So I think that this is, in my view, an obligation for us to provide these opportunities without giving a specific financial benefit to people who happen to be tenants on district property versus on private property. It has to be fair, it has to be market valued, and it has to be to make sure that there isn't a competitive advantage on public property, therefore making it harder for our private businesses to operate. So I will be supportive of the staff recommendation. I believe the secretary, Councillor Hanson, do you have any additional comments?
Not too many. I absolutely agree with everything you've said. I just observe that from my point of view, the rates proposed are reasonable. Pardon me. And the $14,000 that it's anticipated this will generate will be useful to the district. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no further speakers. Oh, I see Councillors Forbes and Pope. Sorry, Councillor Murray, Forbes, and Pope. Sorry about that. Councillor Murray.
Thank you. And this is going to be separate from the patio, the Gallant project that we're looking at. So that's going to be a separate project as far as how we're going to deal with patio space on the road.
Staff response, yeah.
Is staff answering that question or your?
Yeah, through the mayor. So staff are continuing to work on the Lower Gallant patio areas for that flex zone. We plan to have a response back to council in the next couple of months of that work activity. So we're going to be using these guidelines as a basis, but we are exploring specifically what the Deep Cove area looks like.
But
is there a reason why?
So just to be clear, the businesses that are along Gallant may fall under both policies.
Both. I understand.
They have an area that's in front of them that is just for them, but then there may also be the common space down the center of the road that may have a different policy. Is that correct?
Through your worship, the outdoor customer service area policy would be for both. So if one of the businesses is using the flex zone, they would also fall underneath this policy. And currently we do have a number of businesses along Gallant who do have a small piece outside their front door. So under both situations, they would fall underneath this policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Murray, back to you.
So with those, You know, I have to say it's kind of hard to visualize this when we don't have any visual aids as to where all of these patios are. I'm just trying to go by memory. I'm not sure why engineering would look after one part of the patio license and then land would look after another. You know, patios that are attached to private businesses are one thing, but then common space on a roadway offering a patio experience is another. And have we had the conversation in regards to how those patios in common spaces such as Gallant would be, how they would function? Like, is it going to be an extension of the private patio that's attached to the business that would just move out into the road?
So it's outside of the scope of the policy that we're talking about tonight, but do you have a response from staff?
Your worship, ultimately, the location of where patios are appropriate would come out of the conversation that has been discussed by engineering group with the community. What Ms. Ryder was mentioning is that wherever those areas are determined by council to be appropriate, there needs to be a fee that applies to the use of that public land. And this policy would provide that guidance for that fee. I hope that provides some clarity.
So even if we declare a common shared area such as Gallant, or if we did one potentially in Edgemont in future, then you would use the rate structure from the outdoor customer service areas policy for those areas. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. When we provide the use of lands, we do need to identify the benefiting property because they have to ensure the use of those lands, ensure it's operating within the bylaws of the district, such as the noise bylaw, ensure it's kept clean. And certainly if they are licensed liquor areas, the province has specific licensing rules around boundary definitions, signage, use in that space, and how it's kept. And so for those reasons, we think it's important that we would identify the benefiting property and then they'd be charged an appropriate fee under this policy.
I think this is where it gets a little bit, I think it gets a little bit challenging because it's a common space. It's a space that can be used by the overall general public, but Mr. Milburn is suggesting that this would be attached to a private business, Gallant, and it would use the same fee structure as those private patios that are attached to businesses. And I'm still not really clear on how Gallant is going to operate. I think that has been a challenge from the beginning of the project. And I think the businesses are unclear as well. There seems to be some confusion in the community about it. I think they thought they would be able to use it, but if Gallant is meant to be an area for all, is it an area for all the community to gather and use, or is it an area to be leased to a private business for their own purpose? You know, I think those are the things that have been kind of left out of the conversation that we need clarity on. So the weatherized and non-weatherized, so if you have a covered patio that you install at your own benefit, you're going to pay a higher rate. Can you stop my time, please?
For your worship, that would be correct. Correct. The difference in fees equates to the amount of time in which a patio can be used during a season. So if you're just putting some chairs on the sidewalk, that has a very limited period of time. If you're looking at something that is more enclosed, you can add heating and can use it for more of the year. So this rate is based on an annual rate. So that's why the annual rate for a weatherized is higher.
And then we'll be able to review this at the end of the year.
Through your worship, we will provide a review after a year of the implementation of the new rates. Correct.
Which would be at the end of 2024. Is that correct? Because this doesn't come in until the beginning of 2024? Okay, so we can expect at the end of 2024 a review of the policy at that time.
And when will we be having a discussion as to how, I think council needs to have a discussion, and certainly the you know, the, the business community, but as the community as well needs to have a discussion on how Gallant is going to actually operate. And I'm still a bit concerned about that, that vision. Maybe Mr. Joyce has a comment.
Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, so through the mayor, staff are actively preparing our strategy to roll out, and we plan to be consulting and engaging with businesses later this month, including nearby residents as well. And then we plan to be coming back to council in the second half of June with our strategy on Gallant and how it applies to the OCSA, and if there are any differentiating factors to that as well. We will present it to council in just over a month's time.
So when is the project supposed to be finished?
Yeah, so through the mayor, the Livable Deep Cove project, currently we're planning for some functional spaces to be available roughly in early July, subject to our contractor being on time as they are right now. We're trying to time these together in terms of the engagement with the businesses and when the flex zones will become available for functional use.
I think it's really important for us to keep in mind that the middle of July or July is sort of like the beginning of the peak for the summer. And, you know, I think there has to be some sort of understanding of the impact on that function being implemented during this very crazy busy season. You know, Saturday in Deep Cove was utter chaos with people driving the wrong way up the connector. You know, like just hundreds of cars, hundreds of people everywhere. It was like nothing that the community's experienced in a while. And I just really think that we need to understand implementing these new concepts in these peak periods is very, very challenging from a logistical standpoint and from a business and community standpoint. So I think council needs to know what's being implemented before it's implemented is the message that I'm sending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillors Forbes and Pope. Councillor Forbes, your comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a couple of questions for clarification. We seem to fall in sort of the mid-range of what's out there for other municipalities. And there was in brackets, it says that we didn't use the City of Vancouver rates. And I'm just wondering why we didn't. Like, what was unique? Is it something to do with their charter?
Through your worship, the ranges for the downtown City of Vancouver were a lot higher than what we were seeing in more of the suburban type areas. So we looked at the outer lying areas of the City of Vancouver and other municipalities because they were more in line with what we would anticipate within the district.
By outer, how far outer than what the North Shore is from Vancouver? Like, are we talking Pitt Meadows?
Through your worship, the City of Vancouver has two different rates. They have the very downtown core, and that's the piece we didn't include. And then they have outside of the downtown core, which is in the communities, which is more of the more Canby corridors and from there out. So that would be the definition. And then we've looked at Burnaby, I think Port Moody, and all of those other municipalities out from there. If they've set rates for patios, we've reviewed those and they are included in this range.
Thank you. The other thing is I noticed that North Vancouver charges an initial administration fee. Is that the same thing that you're referring to when you say in addition to the license, there'll be additional requirements, and under that you mentioned documentation fee?
Through your worship, there is an initial documentation fee. It is a one-off fee that is charged, and then we do charge the annual license. So you would only incur that fee once. So that would be similar, I believe.
Are we planning on setting any definite dates with the seasonal timeline, and are the non-weatherized and the weatherized timelines?
There are no
going to be left up to the individual business.
Please.
The timeframe for the patios is left up to the individual business. So they pay an annual fee, so they can put their patios out at any time during that period.
What would we do if a business decided in August that they wanted to have weatherized and then be able to conduct their business out on a patio in the evenings or in the winter? Would we look at that right away? Would they have to come and apply to us in order to do that so that we know that was happening?
Through your worship, they would need to apply to change their patio to a weatherized patio. Or if we discover that they have altered their patio, then we would convert their license to a weatherized patio and charge an additional fee.
Thank you. The one other thing I'd like to say that is sort of the same thing that Councillor Murray has said. I got all kinds of emails about the Naughton bypass and the signage, or people just weren't reading the signs, but they had cars going up instead of down, and they had cyclists going in the opposite direction as well. And parking again was an issue. So I'm kind of wondering if I understand summer's coming and we have to deal with this, but I also understand those businesses are going to be majorly impacted. And also, they're going to get, we haven't decided on any kind of a newer, better parking policy out there. So it's kind of everything needs to be handled, I think, together. And I'm afraid that if we do one thing, we are missing out on handling the other problems that area is going to have. And I do remember specifically asking you a question when we were discussing these at the meeting that we passed outdoor spaces, was that I asked you, there was a concern in the community about the space that would be out from their businesses that they normally wouldn't have. Would that be community space? Because sometimes in the summertime when they're overcrowded, people want to sit down somewhere. So if we fence off an areas belonging to one business, that means if you're not utilizing that business, you can't sit there. And you had responded by saying if it was a liquor serving business, then you have to do that. But other than that, we could leave it open for the community. So I would just like to say the community and myself, we're going along the assumption that we were leaving the extra space out for the community, but it should be at the expense of the business it's in front of, because hopefully most of the people sitting there would utilize that business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Pope.
I am supportive of this, but I just wanted to ask the question about the businesses. I'm a little bit concerned that businesses are just starting to get their feet on the ground again after some very difficult years. And I wondered if we've done any consultation with them.
Through your worship, as part of the consultation with businesses to do with the outdoor customer service areas, there was a discussion with the businesses about rates and that they would be charged rates for the use of district land, and they were given an approximate amount of what those rates would be, which these fit within those rates.
And did you receive any feedback regarding a concern that, that was potentially going to cause them some hardship, or they were opposed to it?
Through your worship, nothing. I did not attend those meetings, but I did not get any feedback of any concerns of the proposed rates.
And we do have Neonilla on the call tonight if you need to refer to.
Your worship, and certainly Neonilla would be able to provide individual comments. She met with each of the businesses, whether or not they were using district land or not. So we've reached out to everyone. And I think what we found is one of the key aspects is the consistent application of the regulations to enable people to use the public space and to use private space for the outdoor customer service areas. And we found that all of the businesses generally that had the temporary allowance are coming in and looking for getting permanent allowance.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very useful for them to expand into those areas. And the council's leadership in creating a permanent situation for those businesses is really the major factor in terms of benefiting them for recovery from COVID and the issue of the fee. People expect to pay a fee generally outside of a pandemic period for for the use of land. And so that wasn't a major factor for the businesses we consulted with. But the Leadership Council chose to show in terms of allowing this to continue was the major benefit for the businesses.
An additional comment from Nianila Lalova.
Yes, thank you. Through your worship, we did not receive any specific comments on the fees. Businesses were expecting to be paying after the pandemic blows over, and we already have fees in place to begin with. So actually, I think most of the businesses are eager to continue the program. Thank you.
Thank you
Great,
very much.
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I see no further speakers at this time. Prepared to call the motion. Oh, Councillor Ma.
Thank you. I was just doing a lot of thinking. Overall, I think it's a good thing for us to support businesses, whether they're on private lands or public lands, to have patios, because I think it creates community. And it also supports their business. But I just want to make sure I understand. I think this was a point that Mayor Mike was making. This new rate structure, it's to kind of like even the playing field between businesses that are using public land with businesses that are private land, just to try to make that equal. I just want to understand that. Is that right?
Through your worship, the idea behind the policy is that we're charging a market value for the land to be used as an outdoor customer service area. So it's with public land, yeah. So we're just looking at what other municipalities are charging and establishing a new rate. So this policy has been around a number of years. So we've just recently reviewed our rates just to make sure we are in line with what everyone else is charging, and we are at a reasonable return on that land based on what we're seeing as comparables.
Mr. Milburn.
Worship, I think just to answer the question, thinking about the question more, I think the question was, are you looking at across the fence method of property appraisal? So are we charging a rate similar to the uses that are on the other side of the property line? And the answer is no, because the restrictions in terms of the use of the property on the other side of the property line, it's private property with zoning that would allow a range of uses and construction of buildings and all kinds of different approaches. Whereas this is particular to a patio situation and a limited range of uses, particularly the service of food and drinks. So because of that limited range, you can't just look across the fence and see what's on the private side and say that's comparable in terms of the per square foot lease value. We have to look generally at what we've historically charged in other areas prior to the pandemic, and then try to scale that up in terms of current market conditions. And then, of course, we looked at the comparables in other communities. Thank you.
But a business that's in a comprehensive development would be paying their landlord to use that space for their purposes. It may not have the same list of uses, but yeah. Okay. See no further speakers. Prepared to call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next item we have is the item 8.3, the electric vehicle initiatives.
Yeah, Your Worship, if I may just provide a few introductory comments.
Please.
This report just provides an update to Council on a number of initiatives we've been working on in terms of electric vehicles, and really just seeks Council direction to initiate an electric vehicle strategy just to guide our work in this area. We've identified the need for a more coordinated planning and engagement process to really kind of define the municipality's role in terms of supporting the transition to low carbon mobility. So Mr. Wright has just a few slides, handful of slides I'll run through, and then I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you. Welcome.
Members of Council and members of the public, staff are providing an update to Council this evening on ongoing initiatives to support the transition to electric mobility, and are seeking direction to develop an EV strategy, electric vehicle strategy, for the District of North Vancouver. The district is taking action in 6 key areas to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, protect and enhance our environment, and improve our resilience to climate change. Supporting the transition to electric mobility helps advance the action area of low carbon transport. The Community Energy and Emissions Plan identifies the transportation sector as the single largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the district, representing approximately 52% of territorial emissions. The majority of these emissions come from passenger vehicles. Supporting EV adoption can help reduce emissions from the sector, as EVs are more energy efficient than conventional vehicles and produce far fewer emissions as they're powered by renewable hydro power in BC. Developing an EV strategy and accelerating EV adoption are actions identified in the district's OCP action plan and the Community Energy and Emissions Plan. While the district is focusing on supporting active forms of transportation like walking and cycling, supporting the electrification of the passenger vehicle sector is a key strategy for achieving the district's emission reduction targets. Increasing access to EV charging can help reduce barriers for residents living in existing multifamily buildings who may lack access to charging at home and who often face challenges to retrofitting their buildings for EV charging. The district has been expanding EV charging infrastructure at municipal facilities, such as community recreation centers, and staff have been pursuing grant funding opportunities to leverage additional public charging in the community. In 2021, the district introduced a policy to support EV-ready construction, requiring 100% of parking stalls in new multifamily buildings to provide EV charging, with additional requirements for commercial, industrial, and mixed-use buildings. The district also provides information about federal and provincial EV incentive programs through the dnv.org website. Staff are seeking direction to proceed with developing an EV strategy to help guide decision-making in the coming years. An overarching EV strategy is expected to help better understand the challenges and opportunities that exist in this evolving landscape, to help define the municipality's role in supporting EV adoption, and to identify supportive policies and actions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm looking to council for your direction. Councillor Back, you have a comment? Or will you be supporting the recommendation?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder on the matter? I'll second. Councillor Back, go ahead.
Thank you very much for the report and the presentation. So as was highlighted in the presentation, the largest sources of emissions in the DNV come from transportation, and the vast majority from personal vehicles. So EVs certainly play a role in addressing this and getting us closer to our climate targets. We also know that next to the cost and availability of the vehicles themselves is the lack of charging infrastructure, which is the reason why many people have not made the switch to an EV. So I think there is a role for us to play in creating, either on our own or working with partners, to create a larger network of charging stations across the community. However, I think we do need to recognize that electric vehicles are cars, just like any gas-powered cars. They're not a panacea to all of the transportation challenges that we face in the community. And while they do have a positive impact on climate, they can create traffic congestion and demand on parking just like any gas-powered vehicle. On the other hand, frequent and reliable transit, electric bikes and other micro-mobility such as e-scooters are getting people out of cars in many cases and will have a positive impact on the traffic congestion as well as the environment. So I think we need to prioritize and incentivize the uptake of those types of options in a similar fashion as we are EVs. But I am very supportive of more work in this, and I think the strategy that can be done by our staff makes a lot of sense. So I am supportive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a seconder, I just wanted to say, I think the gaps that we have in the system right now are really probably the most high priority gap for me would be that a number of renters are in buildings that have outdated electrical infrastructure. And it makes it so that they have to go to their own strata and ask for changes to be made. And the strata tends to outvote them because we're still in a situation where a majority of the vehicles by far are ICE vehicles. And so it's hard for them to be able to gain the support of their own stratas. And these are people that are living a relatively smaller climate footprint, but they're trapped in this situation. And so, I sit and think about, well, where should we be putting this kind of infrastructure? Should we be putting it in parks? Should we be putting it in commercial centers? Or should we be strategically trying to upgrade spaces close to older multifamily so that the people that are really captured by that have at least some options within their neighborhood? Fortunately, most of the new vehicles that are coming out on the market these days have fairly significant charging capacity. My plug-in hybrid vehicle only has 7.5 kilowatts of capacity, and so it can only go for about 40 kilometers on a charge. But most of the stuff that's out on the market today is near 70 kilowatts, and so you don't have to charge every single day. You can charge maybe once every, depending on how frequently you're using it, obviously, but for a lot of people, they can go a week, 2 weeks on one charge. And so then maybe it can be in a more flexible place, where a business or town center is. It's hard to put your finger on exactly where the best way to address the gaps in this area are. But I think what we definitely need to be doing is going forward, making sure that the new buildings in our community are being built with the correct infrastructure. We made a change several years ago to make sure that new buildings had to have the transformer capacity for upgrades in future. We made sure that they had level 1 charging throughout their parking facilities and the capacity to be able to add to level 2. But I think we can probably even knuckle down a little more and say that new buildings need to be able to demonstrate that they have adequate charging infrastructure at level 2 for to be implemented within the next 10 years. And because I think it's going to be essential. Obviously, still, we want people to take alternatives wherever they can. I'm obviously a big supporter of TransLink and expanding their services and options. But with the rapid changeover that we're going to experience in the next 10 years, I think it's important for us to really focus on the most critical gaps. And I think that they exist around the older multifamily buildings and the challenges that drivers are going to face to try to get their stratas to adopt the new technology to actually build infrastructure and support them. So yes, very supportive of this as a direction, but I mean, even just sitting and chatting with staff this morning, preparing for the item, we definitely took it all in very different directions as to where the best way to meet the gaps in the system are. So looking forward to what comes up in your report, but I'll be supportive. Next, I have Councillors Murray, Hanson, Ma, and Pope. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, certainly putting policies together for, the future is important. And I hope we're looking to places like California and the challenges that they have, how, will be impacted during, those potential hotter summers that we're getting and the impact of the grid. I think Councillor Back points out correctly that, this is not a solution to all of our problems necessarily. For every action, there is a reaction. And yes, it may be an electric vehicle, but it takes just as much space up on the road. And yes, right now we have lots of hydroelectric power, but as we grow and our summers become drier, there are always those impacts that we will face. And what do we do then? Does everybody charge at the same time? Can we accommodate all of it as we redevelop, our communities and we look at heat pumps? We know that they're not the perfect solution to the problem either, and we've had challenges with them. So, I hope that there's some education as far as what we know when the report comes back on some of the impacts that other places have had and how we are looking to address them or respond to them. And I too look forward to the report coming back, maybe in a workshop setting. Might be a good idea, just to talk some of this stuff through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murray. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your report. I'm very supportive. I've used a fully electric vehicle for my driving around North Vancouver District for local travel for the last year and a half. And I'm fortunate. I'm in the fortunate position of being in a single family home, and I charge my car entirely in my home. and it has enough capacity for me to do my travel locally. I mean, I've become very impressed with the benefits of an electric vehicle. It's economical. I don't have to buy gas. It's obviously lower CO2 emissions, but it's also much cleaner for our community. We're gonna have a much nicer community, quieter, with less air pollution and noise pollution and dripping oil and so forth onto the roadway. So it seems like a really excellent step for us to evolve towards electric vehicles. And clearly the limitation is charging infrastructure for those who don't happen to live in single family homes with garages where they can charge their cars. So really looking forward to seeing the initiative, seeing the recommendations and following up on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Ma.
Thank you for the report. Similar to Councillor Hanson, I've had an EV for about just over 2 years, and I have definitely noticed the charging infrastructure, the public charging infrastructure has increased over that time. And I realize this strategy is going to be focused on, battery electric vehicles. But just recently, a few councillors were looking at a project at HTEC, hydrogen fuel cells. Is that technology so different that it's beyond the scope of this report? I just thinking about our earlier comment in terms of looking forward. I had to new technology. I'm just wondering if you can comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can take that one actually, Councillor Moss. So hydrogen is definitely one key tool in terms of low carbon mobility and is expected to play a really key role, particularly in long distance trucking and applications like that. It's a very energy dense fuel. And so, long distance trucking is very, very challenging from an electrification perspective. So, there are some areas where it is a little bit more challenging. The light duty vehicle sector right now, of course, there are both available. You can get a hydrogen vehicle. You can also get an electric vehicle. But the charging infrastructure is more developed at this point in time for electric vehicles. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to kind of need all the tools in the toolbox really to address our emissions. And it's really a case of the appropriate tool at the appropriate time. And looking at how we maximize what we have available. And that's not, so to answer your question, sorry, Councillor Ma, through the mayor, really the hydrogen is not really part of this strategy, but it is definitely an element of our longer term thinking in terms of decarbonization.
But they're not exclusive. A hydrogen vehicle uses an electric drive and it can have a battery system and you can charge it as well. If it has a battery pack, it could have both. But the hydrogen fuel system uses an electric drivetrain for the car. So it could be both. It's cool. Yes. Thank you very much. Councillor Pope.
Thanks very much for the report. I'm supportive of it. I am concerned about the significant costs and barriers that remain, as is highlighted in the report. As for the mayor's comment about the older multifamily developments, for sure, that's got to be one of the toughest areas to get in, though, because, for example, I live in one of those, and we voted against charging stations not recently, a couple of years ago, 130 units voted against overall because it was $30,000 for 2 charging units. It was insanely expensive for the average income in that strata. So that's just one example. And also, I feel quite strongly that, yes, we have to be looking at all of the mobility transit strategies in conjunction with this one and hydrogen, which is another evolving technology. And I kind of wish that we were thinking of it in those terms, that they need to all come together to, achieve the goals of the OCP action plan. And those are my comments. Oh, wait, no, I had one more, which was in attachment 1, regarding the fleet electrification. There's the mention of the replacement of 24 fossil gas-powered light-duty district vehicles with electric alternatives. And I was wondering if we had given any consideration, or if we could, to replacing some of those fossil fuel-powered district vehicles with e-cargo bikes, which is being used quite extensively in other municipalities around the world. Would that be possible?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Pope, I know that we do have one e-bike here at the hall that staff are able to take out and use from time to time to go to meetings and things like that. But cargo bikes, to my knowledge, that's not something that we've looked at yet, and certainly something we could take back and take a look at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no further speakers on the matter. Prepared to call a question? Call a question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Now, item 8.4, this is the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund. And do we have a comment from staff? I didn't know if we had a NACIMO representative on the, which, sorry? Oh, Emily Dickin is online. Welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Yeah, welcome. And I believe you have some opening comments before we consider the report.
Yeah, really brief tonight. Thank you for having me, Your Worship, and members of council. Tonight, I'm just here to present on a resolution following exercise Coastal Response, which was an exercise led by the province that NACIM coordinated on behalf of the 3 North Shore municipalities. We left that exercise with a series of recommendations on how to enhance operational readiness on the North Shore. And this really included bolstering the technology and capacity of the North Shore EOC. I'm putting forward tonight a resolution that seeks support for the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund under the stream of emergency operations centers and training enhancements for the EOC and DOC interoperability. So this is how our EOC, our Emergency Operations Center, and our Department Operations Centers communicate with each other. We're also asking that council commits to the District of North Vancouver for providing overall grant oversight and management of the project on behalf of the City of North Vancouver and the District of West Vancouver. Thank you very much.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Murray. Is there a second on the motion? Second by Councillor Back. Councillor Murray, additional comments?
No, I think Ms. Dickin has explained what we're after. Thank you.
Councillor Back?
No, none, Your Worship.
No further comments from me either. I think this is generally the right direction. Thank you so much. I will be supportive. We're going to call, sorry, Councillor Pope.
I have a question. Was First Nations part of this consultation process? And are they involved in this particular aspect?
Yeah, so for this grant, we were working closely with both the Squamish Nation and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. When we stood up the EOC operations and for the exercise, they were part of the exercise and joined us for that. Both nations have their own respective emergency operations centers. And right now we're working on how we move forward with a shared operational governance structure when it's appropriate. But at this time, both nations do stand up their own emergency operations centers, but for bigger regionally based exercises, we've made a commitment to try to see what it looks like to exercise jointly and together. But for the purposes of this grant, they were not partners because they're not partnering specifically in the development of the North Shore EOC.
Okay. Thank you very much. I see no further speakers on the matter. We'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next item up is item 8.5. This is the 2023 FireSmart Community Funding and Supports Grant. And checking on a report
So
from
moved.
staff on this by Councillor Murray. Did we have a fire representative on the call though? There is not on this one. Okay. Moved by Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder on the matter? Second by Councillor Ma. Councillor Murray, additional comments?
No, just that we continue this work in regards to FireSmart risk reduction and our resiliency program. And this is applying for another grant application. So I'm supportive.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ma. Okay, my own comments on the matter. I still think that we need to actually even be more aggressive about moving towards being a FireSmart community. I think this community has a major risk with the health of our forests on the North Shore, and so whenever we have an opportunity to be more aggressive about this, I think we need to. And I get that everybody gets very sensitive in the community about removal of wood in forests and if defensible space around houses and that it looks unattractive from time to time when we do the wildfire fuel management programs. It is the most serious existential threat to our community is massive forest fire. And so it's something that I think we need to take even more seriously. When you look at the FireSmart communities, you know their names. They're all the communities that have had a big, huge fire. And then after the fact, they became FireSmart communities. It's something we need to take seriously before we have our big fire. But I'll be supportive of this grant. Councillor Muir, your hand is still up. Is that from earlier, or do you have additional comments?
No, I just wanted to add, I mean, this recommendation is about grant. And so, I support the grant. I concur with your comments, Mayor Little, and I think we'll be able to have a more fulsome discussion. Parks is going to be bringing forward, a report on forest resiliency. And I think it's going to be a very, very interesting discussion about the state of our forests and the work that's already been done. But it's minute compared to the overall land base that the district has. We've worked so hard to protect so much of it over the years. And, now the forests, as you walk through them, just those of us that walk through, those accessible areas next to our neighborhoods, you can really sense they've really, really changed with climate change, storms, heat domes, atmospheric rivers. It's stunning how much they've changed. And so I look forward to the discussion, how we are going to approach this, how we are going to deal with this, and what senior levels of government will need to come to the table to address these initiatives. As you point out, this is not something that we can do on our own as a municipality. This is a regional, provincial, and federal issue that we need to look at. And I think there's going to be a very good conversations once we look at this report that Parks is going to be bringing forward.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just as a note, the wildfires have already started in the Caribou and they've already started in the Okanagan. So, I mean, that was in April. So we always think it's not going to happen to us, but it could very easily. So I totally support this and support what you were saying, that we need to be prepared before, not after.
Any other members of council? Okay, prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 8.6. This is just simply a housekeeping matter, I would say, although Councillor Ma, I don't know if you have any further comments or would like to move your motion.
I would. This is my first report to this council, so momentous occasion. First of all, I want to thank Councillor Hanson for agreeing to this change. My daughter Julia and her 2009 girls SPL team representing North Van Football Club is going on a trip to play a tournament in Denmark. So that's why I needed to adjust my schedule. So thank you very much for accommodating Councillor Hansen. So.
Second by Councillor Hansen. Any further comments on the matter?
We're all voting against. You're not going.
All right,
Yes.
I'm going to call the question.
Sorry, code of conduct, please.
Those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Council, we finished a little bit early, and so there is opportunity for reports. I did want to start off with just one comment. We started what we call NAOSH Week, which is the North American Occupational Safety and Health Week. We started it off with a pancake breakfast this morning with our staff. And at the end of the week, we'll have a barbecue with our staff. But the whole point is to spend the week talking to our staff, giving them the social agency to say when there's a safety problem and to speak up and be a strong voice for making sure that in all of our work environments within the District of North Vancouver, that we make that kind of comment very welcome, so that people can improve our safety and make sure that we send everybody home safe at the end of the day. And so the theme for this year is Strong Voices, Safe Choices, and we'll be spending a lot of time with our staff this week, making sure that that we have an open ear and we're listening, and that they feel properly supported in that area. So I did just want to comment on that. Would anybody else like to make a report? Councillor Murian?
Thank you, Mayor Little. I'll just report that I did attend the H-Tech public meeting that was held at Kenneth Gordon Elementary School. Yourself and Councillor Ma were there. Councillor Ma referred to it earlier. And it was, it was the old kind of public meeting or public open house where people can go and look at, boards around the gym, and there were staff there, and there were employees from H-Tech and the project. And so it's just such a better way to learn about something and have those conversations. And I really hope, we go back to that on, local community initiatives and issues as well, because it is it's a really good format. But so that was a good informed event. And then I was able to attend the Garden Works opening, our new Garden Works that moved from the city of North Vancouver into the district, just off Welsh Street in the old Western bus site. A really nice event again. Mayor Little was there, myself, and it was a lovely store opening. They've got another 8,000 square feet to go. I think they have better parking than they had in the city, but still parking was a bit of a challenge. It's going to be a fabulous addition to the community, and I'm really glad we were able to keep them here. Certainly during the pandemic, so many people started gardening and growing vegetables, and it was such a sort of a cathartic, exercise to get through that pandemic. And so I'm glad we are keeping these businesses on the North Shore. And then I was really pleased to be invited to the North Shore Lawn Bowlers 100th anniversary at their new site on the old gravel field next to Mickey McDougall. They've opened up their new 2 greens, artificial greens. Their clubhouse is still almost done, not quite. But I was there with the City of North Vancouver, Mayor Linda Buchanan, and members of council. And it was a lovely event. Just proud that we were again, the city was able to keep lawn bowling. They've been around for 100 years, and they're looking forward to 100 more. And so it was a really nice event on Sunday.
Thank you, Councillor Murian. I'll make another report. On Saturday morning, I was able to join the Parkway litter cleanup, and it was organized by Alistair Campbell and Karen Koroluk, and they brought over about 20 members of the community to come in and do a litter cleanup, starting down by the Superstore and moving our way up to Chevron. And it was surprising to see what's still in in the ditches, we found a 2015 federal election sign just off the highway. We found about a half a car. There is quite literally the chassis of a car in the ditch there, and 3 tires and some hubcaps. So the hubcaps tell me it's probably been there for a very long period of time, because the age of the car anyway, and it's quite rusted out. But we did, I don't have the final tally from our staff, but our staff collected all of the refuse in one site, and we'll have to ask our staff how many pounds were collected, but there was no shortage of stuff to clean up as we went through the area. And I guess, sorry, Councillor Ma, you had a report to make?
Yes, thank you. It's this making people aware of a event in Pemberton Heights. There's a garden at Ashdown Park, and there's volunteers. David Drew, Ellen Ashdown, they organize garden cleanup both in the spring and the fall, and the spring cleanup is happening this upcoming Sunday, May 7th at 10 a.m. So if you're able to make it, we'll see you there. Thank you.
Fantastic. I was just going to mention another thing to report. So this week starts the Lower Mainland Local Government Association conference, which takes place in Harrison Hot Springs starting on Wednesday. I think most of the council's participating in it, and it's where all of the mayors and councils from Metro Vancouver, Squamish-Lillooet Regional District, and Fraser Valley Regional District get together to talk about areas of mutual interest. I found this to be a fantastic conference in years past. It's a great opportunity to just find out what other groups are going through. We hear about our immediate neighbors on a regular basis and the groups that we meet with for different groups, but this is an opportunity to find out what's going on throughout the region. It's very applicable. So looking forward to that. I believe it goes from Wednesday evening through to Saturday morning, and I hope everybody comes ready to meet new people and learn new things. So it's a great opportunity. Any other reports? Hearing none, I'm going to say we have completed the business.
Move
of the meeting,
adjournment.
and I will accept adjournment from Councillor Murray there. Thank you to the members of the public for participating this evening. Thank you to staff for preparing the reports for council's consideration. And of course, thank you, council, for the debate this evening. Everybody have yourselves a fantastic evening. Good night.